I, I realise I sort of forgot to put this at the beginning, and I really need to put it at the beginning because I've been documenting my weight loss from my clinically diagnosed stress and other related disorders, plus some still under investigation physical disorders that can also just cause an inability to put on weight. And I've got tendinitis as well. My body's really broken, and the weight loss is really part of that. And, you know, at 47, I was in 63 kilos, and 63 kilos is actually quite heavy for how I looked. So on a body mass index scale, I would be within the healthy range, but toward the top. And we know that the body mass index scale is, well, the people who criticise it for the wrong reasons. It's not supposed to be a precise measure of someone's health. It's just supposed to be a bit of a ballpark sort of snapshot of where you're at, and then of course finer instruments can be used to measure underweight or overweight or whatever, and it's why we don't use it for rugby players and we don't use it for pregnant women. And so, I mean, I've been virtually the same, almost exactly the same height and exactly the same build, including, you know, cup size, as an ex-boyfriend's friend's girlfriend. You know, we were back to back and they were really struggling to find any significant physical differences between us, and yet I was 63 or something kilos and she was 54 kilos, you know. And the thing is that I've got where you can see where this extra weight is. You might not be able to tell it in other areas, but I've got quite a muscular build, so I've never really worn short skirts or anything because and I hated going to a girls' school where I had to wear a short uniform skirt because I've got big calves. And even at 47 kilos, I mean, you can sort of see in the video that's coming up that with my black tights on, you can see that those are very skinny thighs, but they're not incredibly skinny calves, and you could almost just say that those are the legs of a thin person rather than the legs of an emaciated person, and I am emaciated. And it's hard to sort of document the emaciation, but I think you can see a bit of it in the video. But no, I'm not going to show. I said that I wasn't going to show on Facebook, which and coming up is my Siri reading out a Facebook post that I made about my clinical stress and my inability to keep weight on, and my shame of my body, and my vow to never judge anyone again who's extremely thin, because you know, even judging someone as having anorexia, by which people mean anorexia nervosa, which is a mental disorder that makes people think that they need to become a lot thinner and often have body dysmorphia, and the fact that they can't actually recognise the size of body. I know what my body looks like and I don't like it. And I was happy with my body when it was 63 kilos, and I've been quite lucky, and it's probably something to do with genetics, and it's also probably got a lot to do with the fact I haven't had kids, that I've remained reasonably slim. You know, my weight's fluctuated over my adult years, but at 40, you know, at 45, for example, I mean, a year ago in November, so it's 10 months ago, I was 63 kilos, and that is more or less my baseline that I will come back to even if I fluctuate. And that's a very good weight for me. And again, taking into account the muscularity of my build, that would actually indicate that I'm carrying more fat than I actually am. The weight that I a more typically musculatured female would probably weigh about 58 kilos. That's about right, and that's pretty good for 165 centimetres. That's not a judgment on anyone's looks. That's just purely from a sort of a general health perspective. And as someone with a kidney transplant and other health problems, you really want to make sure that the things that are under your control, you do control. You create as much strength scaffolding around your other conditions that you don't have control of, whether naturally or circumstantially or whatever. It's a bit like, when I was 18 and, I had ADHD, but I wasn't diagnosed and certainly not treated, and so I was a bit of a, I acted in quite a seemingly masculine sort of risk-taking way, whereas I'm naturally very risk-averse. And it was Christmas Eve, and my mother had used a recent inheritance to buy a ramshackle house to get moved onto a section in the cheap section, a kind of beachy area that the family could go to, which was very good. It was just some, when you get a growing family, it's great to have somewhere to go to, and you've got a smallish house in the city, and there was a lot of DIY happening, a hell of a lot of DIY, and one of the DIYs was setting down a cheap sort of driveway and walkway area, and we used gravel that she'd sourced, and basically she and I were working beyond the point that anyone else was interested in working. It was just her and me on Christmas Eve, as I say, a rainy Christmas Eve, and it was just wheelbarrowing gravel that had been dumped by the company, and it was just wheelbarrowing it, and I was just being a pack horse, really, just wheelbarrowing gravel where she wanted it. And then I decided, this is not going fast enough. I'm going to load up the wheelbarrow really, 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 really as much as it will hold. And then I started going quickly, but what I was doing is, because this is in the Greater Wellington area where it's very hilly, and I was barrowing, I was wheeling down a slope, and I would go, perpendicular down, and I was just being a dick. It was like, you see these memes on social media about why men live longer. Well, it was one of those sort of things where I was just at great speed running a wheelbarrow that was way, way overloaded with gravel down, cross angles down a grassy, wet, muddy incline, and it tipped over and it caught my knees. I was tangled up. I've done the skiing as well when I was much younger, but without the injury, because I was more, bouncy. I was 19 or 18 at this point, but, the body is still fallible. And I caught my knees, and I couldn't, I can't even remember, but I was just on the ground and my knees were all twisted up together, and I dislocated my left knee. And it was, I had never, I'd had the misfortune to catch a bit of rugby on TV occasionally because of my insane family who happened to be typical New Zealanders. And, I've seen kind of dislocations, but they don't really zoom in on the dislocation. And I was like, whoa, that's a dislocation. My knee was so fucked up looking, it was so frightening. And I know that you're not supposed to, relocate a joint yourself. You're supposed to get medical attention to do it, but the pain and just the fucking weirdness, like the disturbing weirdness of, like, it was so flat, like my knee was like flat, it was so gross. So I just popped it back in, and then my mother had to drive me to the only on-call doctor in the area, who was having dinner with his family, Christmas Eve dinner, and I was just covered in mud, and my knee had come up swelling, and it was a big mess. And he was just like, "You were doing what? That's so silly." And I damaged my knee a few other times, and if I ever do that again, I tore my medial ligament, and if I ever do that again, I have to have surgery. So I'm really careful to not do that. And every now and then it's just like, whoa, I go, whoa, Nelly, I can feel it. Anyway, that anecdote is just to show that what I've been told is, if you either dislocate your knee again because it's weakened, or you tear your medial ligament again, which I've re-torn it a few times, I've been told very sternly, you're going to have surgery. I don't want to have surgery. So I've been very careful. So they say, just what you need to do is you can't do anything about the damaged ligament, but what you can do is you can build up the muscle around the ligament, and they would give you these exercises or whatever to do, and you never do them. I just try not to do anything too much sillier than running for the bus. And so that's the whole thing, is that when you've got underlying illnesses, and I have them over and over and over, or vulnerabilities. I mean, having a kidney transplant is not an illness, it's a cure for an illness, but it still comes with risks, inherent risks, and it also comes with problems in itself. I won't go on about it, but what you've got to do when you can't control a problem is that you just build as much strength around it as possible. It's a bit like Lady Gaga, who's a tiny little thing, or Kylie Minogue or whatever, having bodyguards. She can't defend herself, so she puts enough scaffolding around you that she's going to be okay. So that's what I try to do. So, being thin is not fat shaming. Being thin when you have health problems is generally a good idea, because it wards off other problems that could be associated or can be in the pipeline for people who don't, because a lot of people with some of my health problems also have diabetes, and I don't, and my cholesterol is brilliant, my blood sugar is brilliant. Like, I generally have and I work really hard at it. I bucked my ideas up a lot. I used to be a beer and instant mashed potatoes gal, cigarettes. I just chain smoked cigarettes, and now I look after myself. But the point is that the kind of thin I am now is dangerous. It's dangerous to my heart, because my muscles are shrinking. It's not fat that I'm losing so much as it is muscle. I am losing fat, but the muscle goes first, and your heart is a muscle, and that's why a lot of people with anorexia nervosa die of heart attacks. And I think Karen Carpenter died of a heart attack. And you think, why would someone die of a heart attack when they're really thin and young? It's because their heart muscle is wasting away and it can't pump blood anymore. And I've got a big stroke risk that's been documented with a brain MRI and all that kind of stuff. Now, as I've been documenting my weight loss, which has been pretty steady since as medical staff had pulled out of their, around my bedside when I was in hospital a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, they said, you're 60. They were saying to the head doctor, he was speculating, what were you, when was your last? And she, and the registrar polled out, she said she was 63 in November. It was like 63 kilos. So it's September now, and I'm 47 kilos. When I was in hospital, I ate and ate and ate and ate and ate. I ate until my stomach shrunk so much. It's not probably a very good idea, but I ate and ate and ate and ate and ate as much as I could. I was just like stuffing my body, trying to gain as much weight as I could, and I got up to 50 kilos, but it's gone down to 47, and it might be less now. It's really, really hard. There's a number of reasons. My body is not a sexual object at the moment, and I don't want to degrade women who have illnesses and say, oh, you're gross, the way that we do with women who are obese. But the fact of the matter is, you don't have to say that woman is gross and unsexy, but what we don't do is say she is sexy because of this illness. And so when I show a little bit of like the back of my bra strap, or whatever women have boobs. I don't really anymore. I've got like an A cup and I was a double D. Sorry, I was an E. And double D is the limit of the mainstream bra ranges that you can get. And I would have to go to more specialty brands. It was insane. And now I'm struggling to fill an A cup, and it's just a very, very, very strange situation for me. And a couple of months ago, like say when I was like 52 or something, it was like, okay, well, this is a slim woman who didn't look sick and who didn't have a typically sick looking body. And I'm like, that's cool. I've got a different kind of body now, and I was happy with my body before. I like a bit of a curve myself in a female. But I was enjoying being skinny, and it meant that I had greater range of clothes options at op shops, because I mostly shop at op shops. I don't tend to buy new clothing. I would never ever wear skinny jeans, but now I could wear skinny jeans. I would never wear a short skirt, but I could wear a short skirt. It's like, cool, I think small boobs are great. Like, I think big boobs are great, and now at the moment I've got small boobs. Like, I can adapt. It's like, sometimes I have long hair. I've had bad haircuts that I've had to repair with very short hair, and you just adapt. You go, okay, cool, well, I'm having a change. Plot twist, as they say. It's a really nice attitude to when things go wrong. You just go, plot twist, and move with it. But there's a point that you can't do that anymore, or it gets really a lot harder. And what gets really, really hard for me is when YouTube removes my videos because they are deemed to be sexually provocative. And YouTube is not a conservative platform. And I would have thought that, in fact, it would be more accepting, maybe too accepting. And I think the word titillation or something, it's like, I'm sorry, this is not titillating. If it's titillating, it's titillating to, I don't mind being found attractive, as some people do, and I scrub up well, when I wear makeup and stuff. Some of my videos show me wearing makeup and stuff. That's not what I'm doing here. Now, the video that's coming up, and actually I think I'll probably link this in rather than put it in the beginning, because this is now getting long at nearly 18 minutes and it's going to keep going for a bit, is that I have been buying here and there pieces of clothing that are smaller and smaller, and then what I do is, and I get these safety pins, and they're generally like nappy pins so I don't hurt myself, and I just, I will take them in at the waist with nappy pins and stuff as much as I can without destroying the appearance of the clothing, because the clothing you can't keep cinching in at the waist without looking bizarre, and there's a point where you can't use safety pins anymore. So I went to MSD, Ministry of Social Development, which administers a number of, social development resources and enterprises, and I said, look, I've lost so much weight I can't fit my clothes anymore. It's winter, I'm cold, new clothes. So they didn't even give me a grant. Like the $150 they gave me for new clothes, it wasn't even a grant, it was something they have to repay. And so that was me showing what I was going through my shortlist. And when Wayne, the guy, that was at Salvation Army in Church Corner, which was a wonderful place, he could see you're up to 100. He said you're up to 100. That was me not just like layering clothes on, but that was me shortlisting things and swapping things down and out, because I didn't think I'd get anywhere near $150 with op shop clothes. But then when you spend $10 here and $15 there, and the pink coat that I ended up getting was $25, and it's well worth it because I'm freezing cold a lot of the time. So I ended up spending exactly $150 on a whole bunch of stuff that has been extremely helpful. And I am ashamed of my body. But this is helping me explain why I look like how I look, and I don't need any shaming from YouTube in this really weird way. Like, I'm trying to turn people on with my, it's an illness. So I hope YouTube just doesn't do that this time. Please, YouTube. And I've appealed under those conditions before, and they've stood steady, which I just think is repulsive. I just don't understand it.